The world watched with bated breath. White smoke billowed from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel. A new pope had been chosen. Whispers turned to gasps as the name echoed across St. Peter's Square. Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, now Pope Leo XIV. This was no ordinary papal election. For the first time in the 2,000-year history of the Catholic Church, an American would lead the faithful. Born in Chicago, Leo XIV's journey was anything but ordinary. He dedicated decades of his life to serving the poor in Peru, even becoming a citizen of his adopted country. His humility and quiet strength had impressed even the most cynical Vatican observers. This was a man who lived his faith, a stark contrast to the gilded halls of power he now inherited. The election sent shockwaves through the United States. Here was a figure who embodied the American dream, yet one whose values stood in stark contrast to the country's recent political climate. The comparisons were inevitable, particularly with the looming presence of President Donald Trump. Leo XIV's election was a watershed moment, a symbol of hope for many, a harbinger of change for others. It signaled a potential realignment of the Catholic Church with its American followers, and it set the stage for a clash of ideologies that would reverberate far beyond the Vatican walls. From the moment he stepped onto the balcony overlooking St. Peter's Square, Leo XIV made it clear his papacy would be defined by a commitment to social justice and inclusivity. His first words as pontiff called for a disarmed and disarming peace, echoing the teachings of his namesake, Pope Leo XIII, a champion of workers' rights. This focus on social justice was more than just rhetoric. It was woven into the fabric of his life. His years spent ministering to the marginalized in Peru had instilled in him a deep empathy for the poor and the forgotten. He spoke passionately about the need for economic equality, environmental stewardship, and a more just world order. His message resonated deeply with many, particularly those disillusioned by growing inequality and political polarization. Here was a leader who spoke truth to power, who challenged the status quo, and who offered a vision of a more compassionate world. His words, however, also sparked unease among some. Conservative Catholics, particularly in the United States, viewed his emphasis on social justice as a distraction from traditional values. They worried about his stance on issues like abortion and same-sex marriage. The battle lines were drawn. The chasm between Leo XIV's vision and that of Donald Trump could not have been starker. Trump, a businessman turned politician, had built his career on the idea of America first. His policies, often characterized by nationalism and economic protectionism, stood in direct opposition to the new pope's message of global solidarity. Trump's signature slogan, "Make America Great Again," resonated with millions of Americans who felt left behind by globalization and cultural change. He promised to bring back jobs, restore American dominance, and put the needs of his own citizens above all else. This inward-looking approach contrasted sharply with Leo XIV's call for a more just and equitable world. The Pope saw the interconnectedness of all people, and the moral imperative to care for the poor and marginalized regardless of their nationality. He spoke of a world without borders, a world where the needs of the many outweighed the wants of the few. The two men represented fundamentally different visions of America's role in the world. Trump saw a nation besieged, needing to protect its own interests at all costs. Leo XIV saw a nation blessed with abundance, morally obligated to use its wealth and influence to uplift the downtrodden and promote peace. Their contrasting worldviews set the stage for a clash of values that would play out on the global stage. Walls and bridges, divergent views on immigration. Nowhere was the divide between Leo XIV and Donald Trump more apparent than on the issue of immigration. Trump had risen to power by demonizing immigrants, portraying them as criminals and a drain on society. He had made building a wall on the US-Mexico border a centerpiece of his presidency, a potent symbol of his hardline stance. Leo XIV's experiences had taught him a very different lesson. Having witnessed firsthand the plight of migrants and refugees in Peru, he brought a compassionate and nuanced understanding to the issue. He saw immigration not as a threat, but as a natural human phenomenon, a testament to the resilience and hope of those seeking a better life. He spoke out forcefully against the dehumanization of immigrants, calling for policies rooted in compassion and respect for human dignity. He urged nations to welcome the stranger, to see in the face of the migrant the face of Christ himself. His words provided solace and strength to immigrant communities across the globe, who saw in him a powerful advocate. The clash between these two diametrically opposed views on immigration reflected a broader debate within American society. On one side were those who embraced diversity and saw immigration as a source of strength. On the other side were those who felt threatened by cultural change and economic insecurity, embracing Trump's message of fear and exclusion. Leo XIV's election injected new urgency into this debate, forcing Americans to confront fundamental questions about their values as a nation. The Global Village versus Fortress America, economic visions at odds. The ideological divide between Leo XIV and Donald Trump extended beyond social issues like immigration. It also encompassed their visions for the global economy. Trump, a staunch advocate for economic nationalism, had implemented protectionist trade policies aimed at shielding American industries from foreign competition. He viewed international trade as a zero-sum game, where one nation's gain was another's loss. Leo XIV, in contrast, embraced a more interconnected and interdependent view of the global economy. He spoke of the need for international cooperation to address shared challenges like climate change, poverty, and inequality. He argued that true economic progress could only be achieved through policies that benefited all people, not just a select few. He called for a more just and equitable global economic order, one that prioritized the needs of the poor and marginalized. He challenged wealthy nations to share their wealth more equitably and to work together to create a world where everyone had the opportunity to thrive. His pronouncements on economic justice were met with mixed reactions. Progressive economists and activists lauded his courage in challenging the status quo. Some world leaders, particularly those from developing countries, welcomed his call for a more equitable global order. Trump, however, remained unmoved. He continued to champion his America First agenda, arguing that his policies were necessary to protect American jobs and interests. The stage was set for a clash of economic visions, one that would have profound implications for the future of globalization and the fight against poverty and inequality. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like, share, and comment your thoughts below. Let's create a supportive space where we can learn from each other. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future videos from Room 089.